be nice to ourselves? Can we be like, girl, you're going through a lot. Of
Mm,
course, you're feeling stressed out. Let me give
yes.
you a hug. Like, do we ever do that for ourselves? Can we just start
Can
there?
we
Right.
become our own best friend?
Yes, yes. And then, like, okay, what support can I get around this? Who can I talk to understand what's going on with me so that we don't feel like we're losing it and just have to work harder?
I can appreciate that self-care is literally not just bubble baths and the facials and
Mm-mm,
all of that. It's
mm-mm.
literally every part of your life and being self-aware enough to say,
Yes.
I need to take care of every aspect of myself and my life in a way that is authentic to who I am and the journey that I'm on. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Self Care Oasis podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Gregory. I've been on hiatus for a minute, but I'm back again with wonderful guests, and I hope that you'll enjoy this show today because it's with a wonderful person, Dr. Tiffany Mimms. I've connected with her over a year ago and had amazing encounter. She's a life coach and executive coach, and she's doing a lot more psychologist as well. But I'm going to let her introduce herself to you so that you can get from her words who she is, what she does, and the work she is doing in the realm of self care, specifically for Black women and professional Black women. So, welcome, Dr. Mims. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Samantha. It is a pleasure to be here with you, another wonderful person.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
So, tell us
Yeah.
about you.
Of course. Okay. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I'm a life and executive coach. I've been a psychologist for going on 20 years. My focus and what gets me excited is working with Black women in particular, help Black women basically to navigate personal and professional life change and transitions because we're always going through something or coming out of something and need some
Mm-hmm.
support around that. I really like to encourage Black women to prioritize their self-care and mental health, which sometimes we either have forgotten about or don't take the time to think about, hasn't been modeled for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately, really just to encourage Black women to create the lives they want to live. I've named my program around that because at the end of the day, it's like not just what do you want to do, but who do you want to be and how do you want to feel in that experience?
Yeah, I think that's an important question, not just in general, but every single day. I find that asking that question is crucial to reconnecting with yourself, your purpose, why you're here, what you want to do that's different from what you've been doing and
Right.
what society tells you should be doing.
100%, 100%. Yeah, yeah. I was in private practice for a number of years, and then I expanded to my center now, which is called the Rosetta Center for Counseling and Wellness, a place for health, healing, and hope. And it's
Mhm.
named after my grandmother, Rosetta.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when I tell people that, they think that she was this majorly accomplished person who had done all these things, earned degrees, but that's not the case at all. My grandmother, of course, amazing, but she was someone like so many of us, right? So she raised her own five children. She created a safe home for foster youth.
Mm.
She was the babysitter for all the grandkids and great grandkids, active in the church and the community. I mean, you know the story. Supported my grandfather as he was building his businesses and running for a political career. And especially as I started getting older and started having my own children, I
Mhm.
often wondered, like, where does grandma go for support? Your everyday Black woman out there holding it down for
Mhm.
everybody else. And I'm thinking, when does she take a break? Who is she going to for support? And so
Mhm.
I wanted to create a space where Black women in particular were seen for all that they are doing, right?
Sure.
Oftentimes that work is overlooked. It's not
Mhm.
paid, right? Undervalued, not seen. And I wanted to shift that experience, validate us for the things
Mhm.
that we go through as Black women, and just again to encourage people like my grandmother, like us, to right live lives of meaning and purpose, and to prioritize that self-care.
I love that. And what I would love to talk about just briefly, maybe you may
Hmm.
end up expanding this a little bit too, but the legacy that our grandmothers and mothers have left us and how that's a tough place to be for us. Because
Yeah.
when we see them doing everything for everybody, not really resting, not going on vacation, not taking time, it's
Yes.
like, is this the standard that I'm supposed to be living by? Is this the model that I'm supposed to be
Yes.
adhering to for the rest of my life because my mom, my grandmother, my great grandmother, because I was just looking back on my own family and how that seemed to have been the case. And a lot of other my friends,
Yes.
women who have literally that I've just loved so much, who have literally pretty much worked themselves to death and
Mm,
passed away because and never finding true rest except in death. And that was just like,
yeah.
oh my God, I can't.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and I it's and like you wanting to bring this work to Black women specifically and let them know you do not have to follow that model. You can create a new model because we live in a new age, and we can give ourselves permission to
Yes.
literally change and shift and create a lifestyle that supports us.
Definitely a long legacy of that for me and a lot of role modeling of, and from
Mm-hmm.
both sides, right? From my mother and my grandmother and my father and my grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
everybody, all these Black folks just working and accommodating for
Right.
everyone else. That was
Yes.
the thing, right?
Yes.
So they would do their own jobs, take care of their
Mm-hmm.
own family, but always if someone says, "Hey, can you do this? Are you available to go here?" Well, yeah, let me see what I can do. Let me move
Mm-hmm.
this around. If I drive 4 hours this direction, then I can do that, and then I'll turn around and drive 6 hours the other direction.
Yes.
And it's as if the N word was no. We
Mm-hmm.
have a hard time saying no, just period. No,
Yeah.
period. That is a
Mm-hmm.
complete sentence. Or I can't do that today, or check back with me next month. Like
Sure.
we just have a hard time doing that. And so I saw my mother doing that in particular and appreciate the ways in which I benefited for that, I'm sure, over the
Mm-hmm.
years, but also thinking, is there another way? Seeing the toll that
Mm-hmm.
takes of always accommodating to everyone else and putting yourself last. And I didn't want to continue to live that way.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't want to model that for my children
Right.
either.
And that's so important. We're like between the sandwich of the generations,
Yes.
right? So
Mm,
mold, as it
yeah,
were. And we are creating new legacies. And I think
right.
when people think about legacy, they think about old money, they think about property, they think about businesses, they think about all the material things that we leave for our children. But this is one of the most important legacies that we can leave, especially for our daughters,
Yes.
because they, again, they're looking at us. They may be in teenage and early young adulthood, and
Right.
it may look like they're not paying attention, but
Oh,
they
they are.
absolutely are. And it's so
Yes.
important to remember that, especially in our generation where we are breaking the spell, as it were, over
Yeah.
our lives and we are creating new narratives, new ways of being. And I feel like as we push up against these norms, as it were, and
Mhm.
traditions, it just takes a lot of courage. I'm glad we
Does.
have you here to help
Yes.
us get through that process.
Yes. Well, honestly, it was one of my children that helped me with this. So
Okay.
we have to be open to what the
Mm-hmm.
younger folks actually can teach us. I know that
Mm-hmm.
I am having more conversations with my mother, giving her permission to say no to all the
Mm-hmm.
demands. Like, Mom, you don't have to do that. Let's talk this through. Is that something that you even want to do before you say yes? So I'm able to do that for her. But it was my child, my middle child in particular, that one has a way, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I don't know, maybe it was 5 years ago or so. So she was probably around 10 or so at the
Mm-hmm.
time. I was talking about just having so much to do, and I was wanting to take some time off, but didn't really feel like I could manage my schedule to do that. And she
Mm-hmm.
says, "Well, Mom, aren't you the boss?" I'm like, well, yes. Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
am. And she just reminded me that, well, if I'm the boss, I can make those decisions. And it's not
Right.
just the boss of your business, but your life. If you can't make those important CEO decisions of your
Mm-hmm.
life, no one else is going to do that for you. Sometimes the younger generation can help us see other ways.
I love that your daughter was able to give you that aha moment. Like, hey, I am in
Right.
charge here. I do get to make this choice and this decision. She literally empowered you to empower yourself to do
That's
that
right.
and to start helping so many other women. You get
Yes.
to the space where self care is a priority and it's not just oh, I'll get to it, or I'll wait till I've completely crashed out and burned out and there's
Right.
nothing I have left to give. I appreciate her for that, for doing that.
Yes, me too. Yes, yes. Can I speak to something else that you mentioned
Sure.
as well? You talked about looking at our elders and the role modeling. And so what came to mind too was how we compare ourselves to
Mhm.
what other people are doing, what the older generation did and had to sacrifice, but we don't always look at just our own situation because my
Sure.
situation might be different from yours, different from
Right.
hers, different from theirs, right? So we have to get outside of comparison because usually when we go down that path, we
Mm.
usually do a negative comparison. That's not helpful.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I noticed in my life was that I was comparing my situation to my mother's generation and her
Okay.
situation, forgetting that things are very different
Right.
between how I grew up and how my life is now with my children. My mother, so there's myself and my sister. We're about 11 and a half years apart. So it was almost like having two sets of children. My mom
Sure.
had the first one and a long gap and then a second one. We grew up right around the corner from my family. We all lived on the same block. So
Mhm.
grandma, aunties, uncles, everybody right there. Lots of family support. So she had a lot of resources that I don't necessarily have now. I have three children, back to back in ages,
Sure.
no family
Um,
support. The demands on family systems are greater in a lot
mhm.
of ways these
Mhm.
days. The expectation to have your kids and all the sports and music and the grades and all the things. Yet I was comparing myself to all the support that my mother
Mm.
had, and that I should be doing this, I should be doing that. If the house is a mess, then I'm
Right.
failing. I'm letting people down, all those sorts of things. And it was a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
a lot of pressure to live up to the professional expectations and the community and the family. And one day I had to say to myself, wait a second. Mom was great. Dad was
Mhm.
great. Grandma was wonderful. They were doing the things. And this is my reality. So,
Right.
what's going to make sense for my situation, right? What's
Mhm.
realistic? What's manageable? What do I need to let go of? So,
Sure.
once I got outside of that comparing myself and looked at my own situation, that was actually quite freeing as well.
That's
Mhm.
great. I went through a similar situation where being a single mother and in school full time, working full time, parenting full time, I was comparing myself and my situation to what my mother or my sister or other women in my life and
Mhm.
circle were doing. And it's just like, wait, they're not single parents. They don't understand what I go through.
That's right.
If my house is a mess, I'm selectively managing what I want to manage at the moment that I have the energy for. So
That's right.
just really had to take a really far step back and really evaluate and reevaluate and really let myself off the hook
Yes.
for not being perfect or not having the perfectly managed home, schedule, all the things because I was literally juggling all these
Right.
things.
Right.
And it's like, and just giving myself grace
Yes.
to move forward in my life day by day, moment by moment,
Mhm.
in the truth about where I was in the moment.
Yeah, and even celebrating that too, right?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
I'm not that, I'm this. This is
Hmm.
great.
Well, I couldn't say that at the time, but now I can
Right.
say that.
Well, you got some perspective now, and you're like, my life, my way is just fine. I remember I used to be worried about, oh my goodness, if your grandma saw your hair right now. I'm like, yeah, their hair's a
Hmm.
hot mess because they've been playing in the yard, and we're okay with that,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
the kids, fortunately, they adjust because all they want is to have fun, have a happy home, have a full belly, see
Yeah.
their friends. And of course, as they grow older, their needs and changes, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
But if we as mothers, as employees or business owners, as professionals can find a way to show them
Yes.
that you don't have to do it all in
Hmm.
this moment. You can choose, decide, you can rest, you can relax, you can invite people over, you can just be alone. It's just so many different ways to take care of yourself and to
Yes.
feel happy, settled, and satisfied so
Yeah.
that you're not overwhelming your nervous system, you're not burning
Mm.
out your
Oh my
body, and that
goodness.
you are in an emotional safe place for them because it's so important for them also to see you in an emotionally balanced and stabilized place.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But you also talked about how, the kids, their needs change over time. Our
Mhm.
needs change as
Yeah.
well. We have to, again, slow down and check in with ourselves, not just one day, but on a
Hmm.
regular basis. Because we're human, we're
Hmm.
growing, we're developing, and our needs change if we're not taking the time to see, okay, where am I at today? Where
Right.
am I at this year or this season in my life? And then giving ourselves permission to shift according to where we're at today, not holding so rigidly to right expectations about where we should be or what we should be doing, but we're allowed to shift and change over time as well.
Absolutely. And I can appreciate that self care is literally not just bubble baths and the facials and
Mm-mm.
all of that. It's
Mm-mm.
literally every part of your life and being self aware enough to say,
Yes.
I need to take care of every aspect of myself and my life in a way that is authentic to who I am and the journey that I'm on. And I feel like when we get to that space where we can again take a step back and see this is not just a external process, this is literally internal,
Yeah.
and it will certainly shift how we view self-care and give ourselves again permission to be more mindful of it. I think that's the word I'm
Right.
looking for.
Would you agree that on some level, or maybe to a great extent, self-care really is about self-awareness? If
Mhm.
you're not, right, if you're not checking in with yourself, if you don't
Yes.
know what you are feeling or needing, then you can't really effectively take that next step to
Hmm.
implement the self-care.
Absolutely.
You're not
Yes.
going to know, do I need emotional self-care? Do I need
Hmm.
to meet with the therapist? Do I need
Hmm.
to meet with the coach? You won't know, is it a spiritual thing? Do I need
Right.
to develop a practice, right?
Hmm.
Meditation, journaling. Maybe I do need that bubble bath because my muscles are sore and tight. I mean,
Yes.
but if you don't take the time to check in, that self-awareness, then
Hmm.
whatever self-care is, it's not going to be as effective or
Hmm.
intentional.
I agree 100% that self care
Mhm.
is self awareness. And I think one of the reasons why it's so neglected is because we're so distracted by
Right.
responsibilities. We're distracted by media. We're distracted by what other people think.
Yeah.
And so we almost not dumb down, we almost ignore our needs, or
Yeah.
ignore the awareness we should have for
Mhm.
ourselves,
Right.
because we think it's selfish to look so hard at what who we are
Yeah.
and fulfilling those things that we need to happen for ourselves.
Yeah. With the women that I work with, that's where we start. That question is, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Really, how
Yeah.
are you doing? Not
Mhm.
the answer that you just give quickly to anybody that asks, but really, how are you feeling?
Mm.
That's where this whole thing, I think, for me starts.
Yeah.
And one, yes, like you said, we're often running too fast to even
Hmm.
slow down to really think about an answer for that question. But it's also a vulnerable question,
Yeah, it is.
right? So if you are a professional Black woman who's used to or has to show up in a certain way, right?
Mhm.
Everything together, perfectly put together, not showing vulnerability, for you to really slow down and say, "Hey, actually, I'm not doing so great. I'm not feeling so good. I'm barely hanging on." That's a vulnerable place to be. And so to be able to answer that question honestly to yourself, let alone to someone else, that's a difficult place for some women to get to.
It took me a long time. It really did. Because, like you said, when you're
Mhm.
pushing and you're forcing life to happen because
Yeah.
you have these certain goals to meet or responsibilities that you are almost saddled with, and
Yeah.
because you want to look perfect to the outside world, you put that pressure on yourself. And so you can't ever say, I am literally falling apart and I need help because it doesn't look strong.
Yes, yeah. And again, right, when you look about certain jobs, right, they come saddled with those responsibilities to have it all
Hmm.
together. If you're a leader, people are looking to you for that strength, for that confidence, for that plan, because that's what they need, and that is your role, right? If we start to just hold on to that role in every area of our lives
Right.
all the time,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it becomes a problem. I'm not saying like don't do your job and lead the folks that you're hired to lead. Like in that space, you're going to kind of have to find that to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
what happens is that becomes, right, our role everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we're never allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, to
Mm-hmm.
be supported. And then that's when we start to run into problems like burnout and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety.
And then you add on top of that the hormonal issues that a lot of women are
Girl.
facing right now. That like adds to the melting pot of issues that, and
Mhm.
that's something that is almost like you have no control over it. You do, but you don't because you're not
Right.
aware. Again, it goes back to that awareness, what's happening with my body,
Yes.
what's changing, why all of a sudden am I restless, hot flashes, I can't think, I
Right.
don't know, I don't remember why I came to the room. All
Yes.
these things is a part of needing to be aware of what's
Right.
happening with you.
Yeah.
And then, but those things also contribute to burnout. It contributes to overwhelm, anxiety, and all those things that we need the self-care to help mitigate.
Because then sometimes these other things start happening, and we may or may not know about them. For a long time, people weren't talking about perimenopause and menopause. Like
Right.
people just were not talking about it. Fortunately,
Right.
there's more conversations happening now. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I often see with Black women in particular is that then they start to blame themselves.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Why
Right.
can't I do this? Why am I not
Mm-hmm.
performing at that? So then we start to blame ourselves. And then often, especially for high achievers, the
Mm-hmm.
response becomes, well, let me just work harder. Let me
Yeah.
just do more. Let me just not sleep, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is, right, just makes the problem worse, right? And
Absolutely.
so, again, right, when we slow down, really check in with what's going on in a non-judgmental way, in a
Yeah.
compassionate way, can we be nice to ourselves? Can we be like, girl, you're going through a lot. Of
Mm,
course, you're feeling stressed out. Let me give
yes.
you a hug. Like, do we ever do that for ourselves? Can we just start
Can
there?
we
Right.
become our own best friend?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then, like, okay, what support can I get around this? Who can I talk to understand what's going on with me so that we don't feel like we're losing it and just have to work harder?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. And I think reevaluating and reassessing the stories, the
Mm,
narratives, the expectations that we've
yes,
had growing up is
yeah.
so important when you find that your body is not doing what you want it to do, your brain is not doing what you want it to
Right.
do, and you are in this transition period in your life
Yeah.
where you are at a higher risk of burnout. You're at a higher risk of health problems because of the burnout. And yeah, have just reevaluating and renegotiating a lot of different relationships
Yes.
and soul contracts, all the things that you have been planning your life around. Um, you just have to do a deep dive and a reevaluation of that.
I love that word renegotiate because that's where we see the opportunity, right? And
Mm,
that's where we're able to regain our power and our voice. Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
usually I start women with, okay, how are you really doing? Let's talk about that. And then what is it that you want? Right. And in
Yes.
that conversation is where we get to, like you said, renegotiate.
Hmm.
Right. And there's so much power and opportunity. People often get overwhelmed in that or
Yeah.
trapped in what they always thought they needed to do and not realizing that, okay, yeah, we're going through some changes right
Hmm.
now. Change can be uncomfortable. And right on the other side of that is opportunity. So, yeah, like you said, what are some of the relationships, the responsibilities that we can shift and change and renegotiate?
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think when you start to even reframe that and
Mhm.
make it almost a fun new adventure habit, something that you can just like, let me not look at it from a negative standpoint. Let me
That's right.
see how this can be fun, how it can be empowering. Just as I'm transitioning into this new phase of my life,
Yes.
then this is a new thing that I get to experience. I get to experiment with as well. I'm big
Yes.
on experiences and experimenting. So
Nice.
it's like when we can reframe it as that, I think it really can help
Yeah.
empower you to see this transition part of your life as something different, as something new, as
Yes.
something that's welcome. And you can
Yes.
finally say, or eventually say, okay, I can handle this. It's not so hard. I'm going to take it one day at a time. I'm going to give myself
Yes.
a lot of grace, and I'm going to create this plan for
Yes.
myself now that I've renegotiated a lot of things
Right.
and reevaluated a few things.
It's exciting.
In your program, you mentioned that before, create your desired life. So you mentioned that the first thing is you ask them, how are you doing? What is happening with you? Where are you now? Once they get through that question, like what's the next thing that you guide them through?
Yes, yes. So I always talk about that first step is listening to yourself, right? What is the narrative that you've been saying to yourself? And then switching that to then, okay, so what is it that you want, right? If you've been saying, I'm so tired, I'm burned out, I don't want to do this anymore. Okay, well, what is it that you do want?
Mm-hmm,
Right. And it's not even so much about what is that you want to do, because we can quickly say, I want to work at this job, or I want to retire, or I want to do this. No, let's go a little bit deeper and talk about how is it that you want to feel, right? So we're looking
mm-hmm,
at the values. Is it that you're wanting more joy in life? We always talk about more. How about less? Do you want less work, right? Less stress, less
mm-hmm,
responsibilities? Do you want to have more? For me, it was fun. I wanted to have more
mm-hmm.
fun. I wasn't going out and doing things anymore. I was either working or momming, right? But I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. I want to have fun. And I don't
Mm-hmm,
think since being younger had I thought about it in that way, that I want to have fun again in life. So it's things like that. For some people, it's volunteering or it's
mm-hmm,
developing a spiritual practice. So we really get clear on the values they want to start experiencing again. And once we talk through that, and what's exciting about that is, again, sometimes people are surprised because those desires
mm-hmm.
change over time. Maybe back then it was this, but where you're at today, what is it that you want you more or less of in life?
I
So,
love that.
yeah. But then it can get a little tricky though, because then we start looking at what might be getting in the way of you
Mm-hmm.
moving in the direction of having more fun or having
Sure.
less responsibilities, because then the thoughts, the feelings, the fears, the doubt, the not wanting to disappoint people, all those things start to creep up. I call it our psychological handbag. All the things
Mm-hmm.
that we've been carrying around in our psychological handbag. All right, it's time to clean out our purse. Right. So I
Sure.
say, okay, what have you been carrying around that is no longer serving you? Those stories about yourself that either you're telling yourself or someone else is telling you that are not true. They don't reflect your true value, your true worth. It's got to go. Dump it. Take it out of the bag, throw it in the trash. Or the perfectionism and the
Mm-hmm.
superwoman syndrome that we've been carrying around. We
Mm-hmm.
think that's some sort of a currency, right? I think of it as we use it as a currency to pay for advancement and praise.
Yeah.
No, it leads to anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
depression, burnout, depleted.
Yes.
We don't need that in our purse anymore.
Ooh, that's so interesting. From it's almost like instead of being currency, it's like kryptonite. It's the thing that makes life harder.
Yes.
We've been told these things are valuable.
Yes.
It just really takes it out, everything out of you, and you don't
Right.
really get to be your true self.
Well, we have to think critically about those messages that we received about
Hmm.
work twice as hard to be half as good, right?
Yes.
Now, we were
Hmm.
told that for a reason, so I don't want
Hmm.
to discount that.
Right.
There was a real social, racial, gender, class,
Hmm.
right? Identity, reason behind that, dynamics that
Hmm.
were going on that, yes, we did have to show up in a different way. We do have to show up in a different way. So we have to take that seriously. And again, like we talked about earlier, if we walk through life carrying that message
Hmm.
everywhere all the time, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So, when and where and how can I be human and
Hmm.
that be enough?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Do
Mhm.
you, as a psychologist, I know
Yeah.
you hear this phrase all the time, trauma response. Is
Yes.
most of what we do, especially as Black women, a trauma response? And that trauma response includes not being able to take care of self because of the messages that we
Yes.
receive.
That is another thing that we carry along in our psychological handbag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's intergenerational trauma, our own trauma, our collective trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when we are responding to that, whether it's fight,
Yes.
flight, freeze. Oh, we have felt this pain before, or we're
Mm-hmm.
anticipating that pain. So we brace ourselves, always protecting ourselves from that traumatic injury, right? From
Mm-hmm.
it getting triggered again, from walking into it again.
True.
And yes, acknowledging the reality of our society or our communities or even our families, right? Some of that trauma
Mm-hmm.
is from our own families. So
Right.
we acknowledge that. But we, again, like we are too amazing to live in that all of
Sure.
the time.
Yes. How do you, or at least teach your clients how to start feeling safe? Because this is the one thing that I really had to get from a very soul, physical level to
Mhm.
start to feel safe
Oh,
enough for self care. How do
yes.
you even get to the place where you move from that trauma or triggered response mechanism to I'm safe, I'm secure, and so I can really now focus on and practice self care as my
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Well, one of the things that I talk to people about is so one of the impacts of trauma, like trauma can just, it has wide reaching
Sure.
effects, right? One of those things is just how we see ourselves and our ability to even trust and love ourselves. And so I often like to start there because sometimes we don't even trust our own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes don't even trust our own experiences and we question what happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or did I contribute to making that happen, right?
Yeah.
People don't always talk about that
Mm-hmm.
level of trauma and how it impacts us. And so I try and start with how can we get you to a point where you are believing in you, you're trusting your experiences, trusting
Mm-hmm.
that your feelings are not going to take you out because
Right.
it has to start with that acknowledgement of this is what I experienced. This is how it impacted me. It was not my fault. It is not my fault. And I can have a caring, compassionate response to my own self
Yes.
as I am healing through this.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's so important. Like you said, it's not talked about enough. And I think it's not, it's again, it's about awareness.
Yes.
Most people just don't realize because we do a lot of talking things through, but we don't really do a lot of feeling things through. So that,
Yeah.
and allowing those things to come up so they can be recognized, so they can be
Yeah.
processed, and so they can be released physically so you can start to feel safe and you can really start in integrating new messages that yes, I'm safe enough to be me, I'm safe enough to love me, I can build safe fences, not necessarily walls.
Sure.
Boundaries are amazing, and I need to start with boundaries for myself, which will help me create boundaries for other people.
But it all starts trusting yourself to
Yeah.
know that you have the ability and the right
Hmm.
and the intelligence and the wisdom and all the things that you need. You have it all to create safety for yourself. Again, taking you back to self-care. Self-care is about self-awareness and it's about simply even just seeing yourself. So
Hmm.
often we're running from ourselves. If
Yeah.
you don't make time for you and for seeing yourself and setting up that self-care, there will be no more self.
It's so interesting how when you don't acknowledge it, you literally go into self destruct mode. When you hit that transition, perimenopause, menopause, the health issues start to really
Yeah.
be more exacerbated. But
Right.
you deny the fact that there's something going on here and I really need to pay attention. You keep pushing through, you keep using willpower and more work,
Yes.
etc., and denial, you literally set yourself up to self-destruct.
Right. Yes. So the next place that I take people is around this
Mhm.
idea of allowing for some discomfort
Sure.
in the journey, right, along the process to change. It's
Yeah.
hard to establish new boundaries.
Yeah.
It's hard to create new practices.
Mhm.
It's hard to change the dynamics of relationships with ourselves and with other
Mhm.
people. But what happens if we don't? What happens if we continue to overwork, if we
Mhm.
continue to ignore physical signs, emotional signs, spiritual signs? The outcome is not good.
No.
You,
Yeah.
we look at the health disparities. It's
Mhm.
not all
Mhm.
about us. There's certainly some social determinants going on for sure. But, right, we see the data. We don't even have to see the data. We can just look at our friends and family. So if we
Right. Yeah.
continue down the path that we always have, the outcome is not good. And we're
Mm-mm.
worth so much more than that. And we deserve to experience so much more than that. So even
Absolutely.
though it's hard, can we acknowledge that it's hard and still move in the direction of what we want to experience, how we want to
Yeah.
feel, the life that we want to live?
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
that's why I'm so passionate and why this podcast even exists because it's these conversations about how we stop ourselves from having the most high quality life, what
Yeah.
the barriers are, but then how to overcome those barriers as
Yes.
well and give yourself permission to create this life that we can truly feel supported in and safe
Yes.
in and satisfied as well. So, what is like, what would you say to a woman who is that she's like, I know I need to be doing this? And we mentioned it's really hard to get over this. It's like this wall. It's hard to get over that wall, over that hump, and
Yes.
not feel like you want it an instant result. So, how do you help women recognize that this is a journey worth taking?
Actually, it's both and. I'm
Hmm.
like, can we get some quick
Sure.
results? Because that feels good, right?
Hmm.
Little small wins
Mm.
it creates the momentum, right? And it gives us the motivation, keep pushing and get to the bigger wins. It's a both and. I'm like, what is one small thing that you
Mm.
can do today? Or I'll say between now and the next time we meet,
Yep.
what's one small thing that you could do that'll get you closer to that desired goal? Because it's
Mm.
not always a huge thing. Something small. You got to go to the grocery store to pick up dinner. Hey, spend an extra 5 minutes in the cheese aisle. Just looking at all the different options, just
Right.
right, whatever it is that you need to do in the driveway before you go in the house and listen to your favorite song. Anything that can just turn the dial down a bit
Yeah.
can make a difference. So I always try and incorporate small wins, small victories, small experiences in the beginning to set
Hmm.
us up for more great things to come, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But then also, that's where having a pretty clear vision helps. The more clear you are about where you're headed, then that becomes the compass, right? During the times when it gets hard, we're always circling back to, now tell me again why this is important to you.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's not, oh, because I want that accolades, because no, I want to have time, right, to journal, to go to that Mary J. Blige concert. I want to, right, whatever it is that you identified as your value or the experience you want to have, we always circle back to that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also, again, sometimes we forget about this one because we're used to doing it on our own, is who can help? Who
Hmm.
and where can you get some support? We ain't doing it alone anymore.
Right.
That's old. We don't need to do that
Hmm.
anymore. That's superwoman syndrome. That's out. We
Hmm.
dumped that out of our bag a long time ago. Who and where can we get that support and utilize that support? A
Hmm.
couple of steps there.
Yes.
Ask the question where we can get it, find it, and then use it. Sometimes we get
Hmm.
stuck there and don't use the
Right.
support.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All very great steps for
Mhm.
entering this journey of self awareness, which is self
Yeah.
care, so that you can create this life you love. Dr. Tiffany, I have really appreciated this conversation, and I would love you to tell us about your journal and your upcoming program.
Yes, yes. Well, yes, Samantha, we can talk about this. There's so much more. Such
Yes.
an important topic for such important people, right?
Mhm.
Just supporting Black women in this way, it's just, it never gets old.
No, it doesn't. Love
We
this
deserve it.
conversation.
We need it. Okay, so one of the biggest compliments that I get from the folks I work with is, that's a really good question. Because then
Yes.
you got them, right?
Yes.
You've connected with something, they're thinking about something, and then that growth of that change, that aha moment is going to come. So what
Mm-hmm.
I've done is I've created, it's 31 journal prompts to create your desired life. Okay. And it's 31 just because it helps. You could do it in a month, start whenever. It doesn't matter if it's the first of the month, the 17th, pick a day, get started. Reflecting on all the things that we've talked about. How are you really doing? What is it that you want to do? Looking across the different areas of your life and seeing where you can make some shifts and changes, where you can get some support. So, just a series of questions that are really designed to help Black women, professionals, and leaders slow down, increase that self awareness, and take that committed action. Now, you can use these just by yourself, right?
Sure.
Like just on your own. Takes 10 minutes a day, although it'd be
Mm-hmm.
great if you gifted yourself even more time, but just 10. If
Yeah.
that's all you got, that's enough. And also, what I tell people is that it's not about writing the right response. Sometimes I think I need to call it something other than journal prompts because then people feel like they've got to answer in some deep and meaningful, insightful way. No,
Right.
it's not about that. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about that. Number one, it's about creating the space to check in with yourself. This is
Mm-hmm.
simply a guide to give you some questions to get those juices flowing. That's
Okay.
about it. It's not a
Okay.
judgment. It's not, it's a tool for you. That's the journal prompts. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love
Yeah.
that. And one thing that I've really found that's been very helpful, even in my journey of asking these questions, is
Yes.
if I don't feel like writing, I'll just pull out my phone, my voice notes app, and
Yes.
I will just answer those questions in there because I think it gives you that different
Mm.
way to
Yes.
answer the questions and let it flow so you don't feel that pressure
Oh
to
my
get it
goodness.
perfect when you're writing it down. So,
Thank you for that.
yes, I think
There's
that's
so many ways that we can express ourselves, and
mhm,
writing is just one that, yes, and that
yes.
also can sometimes be tied to, like you said, expectations. So,
Mhm,
whatever way in which you communicate or express yourself, that's what
mhm.
you can use with these questions. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. I love
Mhm.
that. So tell us about your program that you're developing.
For folks who want to take this the next step, right, and maybe get some support, I have two options. One is to work with me one on one, right, working through the different steps that we've talked about to create your desired life, right? So, one on one program over an extended period of time, really digging deep. The other thing is, I'm just convinced about the power of when Black women come together.
Mhm.
The collective wisdom, the encouragement, the validation. In September, I'm putting together a group program, a six
Okay.
week group program for Black women looking to create their desired life. And so we'll walk through the 5 steps. We will have a private community to talk through our aha moments, to get
Mhm.
some other perspectives, to encourage one another, and a lot of fun from there. So that's also coming in September. Mhm.
Beautiful. And we'll have those links for everyone in our description below or wherever you're listening to this or watching it,
Yeah.
so that you can tap into this amazing program. I can vouch for the one-on-one program for sure.
Okay.
I definitely took advantage of coaching with Dr. Tiffany last year. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Time
it
flies.
was really deeply impactful and gave me the support I needed to get through what I was going through at that time. So definitely consider the one-on-one. And then of course group programs are also amazing as well. So you can
Yeah.
meet other women who are on that journey as well and be supported in that ways and probably create lifelong friends too. So I think that's
Yeah.
amazing.
There's benefits to doing both, having your own space as well as being
Mhm.
part of community.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. So, again, I appreciate you being here with us. Again, we will have all of the information in the description below, including where you can find Dr. Tiffany, and tell us even just where we can find you online for your website and social media.
Yes, yes. So on Facebook, I'm Tiffany Mimms. That's Mimms. So you got to get all the M's in there. And on LinkedIn, it's Dr. Tiffany Mimms. And then the website is therosettacenter.com.
Thank you all for listening to this episode of Self Care Oasis podcast. We are definitely here to help you transform burnout into more balance, better boundaries, and bliss. And I appreciate again having Dr. Tiffany with us to help us navigate through what self care really is, how to make it an integral part of your life, and create a more satisfying life. We will talk to you again next time. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next episode.